was thinking about an old quote today that seems particularly relevant given everything that's going on social media these days. It was said by a guy named Socrates, an ancient Greek philosopher. He's even older than me. You can Google him. Anyway, what he said was, when the debate is lost, the loser resorts to slander. Think about that for a minute.
Let's try to get through this as fast as possible because I don't want to spend any more time talking about this than I have to. So naturally, a lot has transpired since I uploaded my video regarding Shiloh a week ago. And although I don't want to make an entire dedicated video for it, I figured this would be an opportune time to provide an update to the situation. Following my video, Shiloh temporarily took down her Twitter account, which was around the time she started to receive backlash. Then almost instantly, from her alt, she had begun to subtweet me and a few other creators. This tweet in particular, she says, "What you did to her wasn't right. You scared us, and my reaction wasn't thought out or right either. I hope everyone has learned something important." And it's widely considered to be some kind of apology, because I guess her core supporters are just stupid? Yeah, no. Apologies start with "I'm sorry," or, address me at all. And this literally wasn't that. Then Shiloh started live tweeting various victim cards, some of which being that because of this controversy, she wishes she never came forward about the Onision investigation, which I remind you has absolutely nothing to do with why she was criticized or what she has done. But apparently all these evil people and uneducated people are creating new trauma. Then there are tweets like this one, where Captain Self-Awareness herself says that everyone needs to leave their phones and step away from their computers. Apparently the real world doesn't drag people this way. The internet does. It's the internet's fault. Well, let me just remind you, this is the woman who threatened to dox someone. She told a girl to practically kill herself. She threatened a man with his hometown. She spurged out on Repsion, someone who supported her for a very long time, and then she created a harassment campaign fueled by a false allegation onto me. Nobody is dragging Shiloh, but Shiloh. If you're reliving trauma by having issues on Twitter, you should probably log off and go to therapy. This is not normal in the slightest. I'm not trying to sound mean, but this is insane that you're placing this stuff onto other people. Next was also fairly interesting. Remember that tweet that was supposed to be an apology from, 1 minute ago? Oh, well, it's followed up with one that states, "Double-stuffed Oreo seems to think that triggering a sexual trauma survivor's PTSD is quote-unquote funny stuff. Good find. PSA, Oreos are the fucking shit, but your brain shouldn't be double-stuffed with crap." So, okay, let's unpack this one. She's really upset with being dragged, so she takes a swing at me? A drama channel again? After she supposedly apologized even, by not only cracking a fat joke, which by the way, totally fair play, but she acts like I'm triggering her PTSD, which stems from sexual trauma and her being a survivor. What the actual fuck? Like, if you're being serious here for a moment, you need to be with some kind of a therapist. This is actually absurd. She's trying to tell her audience that me defending myself from false allegations and then criticizing her outrageous backpedals mean that I'm laughing at triggering her PTSD? What an asshole. That's ridiculous. Do you know what kind of allegation that is? We aren't reinventing the wheel here. Literally all you had to do was make an apology that looked proper and then move on. It's not my problem that you are completely inept at doing that. I took personal offense to this, obviously, because who wouldn't? And I tweeted out, "I wonder how many of my followers have PTSD or have been abused." I asked how many of them were disappointed that Shiloh weaponized her victimhood and her disease just as an excuse to attack me again. As a result, many people shared some pretty powerful stories, and I just want to thank them for that. But on a more positive note, I spoke to a few credible guys, and I decided to actually make a public apology to Sarah over the e-beggar comment. And I stand by the fact that there's nothing wrong with asking her questions. However, I don't think the e-beggar comment was necessary in hindsight, and for that reason, I said sorry to Sarah. But during this time, Shiloh was promoting a streamer named the Deity of YouTube, who will henceforth be known as that nose ring guy. This dude literally had no idea what he was talking about for like 3 streams filled with misinformation. He was making claims that I had apparently made some mean comments in Shiloh's DMs, even though we hadn't even interacted until I made my Twitter public after my own response video last week, and to this point, I have never DM'd Shiloh.
Like I said, with the Shiloh situation, I understand what she said was not appropriate, but I understand the mindset that she probably was in and when she made those statements. So I can't view her in a negative light now, because I do genuinely believe she was coming from a good place, a place of concern, a place of care. I also have been told that apparently there were 2 different people in her inbox One of them was this Nick guy, and somebody else was this guy telling her to be careful. Nick is trying to dox you, yada, yada, yada. And I've been in situations similar to that where two different people are doing two different things in your inbox at one time, and it just creates problems.
At one point, he even thought me and Tipster were like the same person or something. I don't know. The dude's really hard to watch. He's incredibly boring.
You had no business going into her inbox and asking those invasive questions. Old dude had no business showing up in her inbox, gassing her up about being doxxed and being in danger. And then to come at me because I gave my opinion on it without having all the information. Fuck all of y'all. Like, who are you and what are you entitled to?
My name is Nicholas DeOrio, and I'm entitled to you doing your fucking research.
Someone by the name of Some Call Me Tippy, I don't know who the fuck that is either, but they say, yo, at DED of YouTube, care to comment on the false accusations you made about at Nicholas DeOrio on your stream? I have no interest in rewatching a clip from you of my fucking live stream. I know what I said, and I think what you are doing is intellectually dishonest. I think what you're doing is categorically false. I think what you're doing is taking out of context statements and trying to use it against me to start a quote unquote, I don't know, fucking drama battle or to the death or what the fuck ever. Like, you are all 35, 45 years old from the looks of it. Calm down. Quit picking on teenage girls online. Leave people the fuck alone. But for you to categorize it the way you did, that's fucked up, because I went into that stream and I said, I genuinely don't know what is going on with the Shiloh situation. I'm getting bits and pieces. Like, if you can't understand that, then how heartless are you? How heartless are you to make this all about you because Shiloh insulted you? Boo freaking who? Leave her alone. You had no right to be there. No right at all.
Anyways, Nose Ring Guy was protecting himself by saying he wasn't fully aware of the situation, but Tipster tried to call into his show and explain it to him, only to be denied. In fact, when I opened my own DMs with him, he didn't even attempt to contact me. It just seems like Nose Ring Guy is content with putting out misinformation. It also seems like Shiloh is too, by promoting him. Another thing that happened during this time is Josh Pescator released his DMs where Shiloh compared him to Greg, shocker, and threatened Josh with a lawsuit over him asking Sarah's questions about a laptop. This has reached levels of insanity that I never expected to get to. Lastly, DMs came out with scrolling proof that Shiloh had gotten into contact with Real Stream News following his video on her. I'll let you decide what you think these DMs mean, but it's pretty clear to me at least she was guilt-tripping him into thinking she was going to commit suicide. This goes back to what she said to me, and to this I'd say, you can't blame someone for your mental health. This is insane. It's also pretty confusing why she's having an interaction with Real Stream News at all, since he's been accused of some pretty horrendous things. Why she's even talking to him when she promotes deplatform predators raises more questions than it answers. Eventually, Shiloh reinstated her main Twitter account, and unsurprisingly, she was met with some warranted backlash. Last night, she started tweeting every few minutes, and it was a mix between playing the victim card and trying to find 100 ways to apologize without using the word sorry and still coming off like an unhinged maniac. She had the audacity to try to bash people who handled this publicly when she herself was the one creating very public harassment campaigns and exploding on people in the DMs. Shiloh, the reason people have no interest to DM you is because you were too busy exploding on people, threatening people, and talking about suing them. Why anyone would jump into DMs with you willingly to hash things out is beyond my comprehension. Then she targeted Edwin, which I'll explain later because that applies to the remainder of my video. She at one point decided to take her apology to him hostage, which is absolutely hilarious. How she effortlessly pretends to be the bigger person here while showcasing at the same time that she has learned absolutely nothing is very amusing to me for some reason. Anyways, this is the last time I'm going to speak about Shiloh in any context at all. Wherever this train is going, this is my stop and I'm getting off. At the end of the day here, her credibility is shattered. My credibility has been redeemed and no apology at this point is one I'd accept. I ask that anyone bothering her for one on my behalf to please stand down. To her credit, I can see that she has reached out to a few other affected parties and reconciled, which I have to say is great optics. I haven't seen an attempt to contact me, however, and that's absolutely fine. I do not seek validation from pathological liars. I hope she takes this off the chin as a learning experience, and I honestly hope that she doesn't have an episode like this in the future. I also would be incredibly disappointed if this has any effect on the greater Onision investigation as a whole, but as I've said repeatedly, I bear no responsibility if that that is in fact the case. I would say that I think it's incredibly dangerous for a public figure such as yourself to lead this many people in a hashtag deplatform predator movement and call many of your detractors Greg in DMs. I think this could potentially be a recipe for disaster, and if this unhinged rampage continues, I may have to break my vow of silence here to create an extended deep dive and really flesh this situation out. Anyways,
if you have been abused in any fashion, physically, verbally, sexually, you, as an abuse survivor or an abuse victim, do not get to abuse other people. Do not get to make false accusations just because you've been abused. It does not justify you going out and telling other people to end their lives or that you're going to find where they live. Not at all. And also, if you have been abused in any way, it's also your responsibility to get help for that, to seek out therapy, or to seek out to get medication, or in any way that can help you get past this, or your PTSD, any sort of trauma that you have. That's your responsibility to get help for. And if you don't, and you can't use PTSD, and you can't use trauma or abuse as a means to accuse or abuse other people.
Chris Hansen here of Hansen vs. Predators. To catch a predator and have a seat with Chris Hansen, I'd like to give a big shout out to Nicholas DeOrio. He's a great YouTuber. He's never doxed or harassed anyone as far as I can tell. If he does, I'm gonna come get him. But as of now, he doesn't have to have a seat with me anytime soon. But remember, I'll be watching.